Eye diseases, injuries, and surgeries. Sometimes, as iridologists, we will have clients that have or have had eye diseases, injuries, or surgeries. In this chapter, we will review a few of these so you may be aware of what these look like. I always suggest that if a person has just had an eye injury or if they have had an eye disease, send them to an ophthalmologist for help. This is beyond the scope of what the iridologist should do. And now we're going to discuss some of the eye diseases and injuries and surgeries that may be seen by the iridologist so that you will understand what you're looking at if a person comes in with any of these signs in their eyes. The first one we're going to look at is the cataract. So if a person has a cataract, the pupil will be very glossy looking, almost like an ice skating rink. Because remember, the lens is directly behind the pupil and it is hardened now and it has become glossy. And when the cataract is removed, the pupil will look black again. And there may be a sign such as this, which is where they put a stitch into the iris when they were working with taking out the cataract. So this is what it looks like with the cataract, a glossy pupil, and after the cataract has been removed. This is an example of eye surgery, where part of the iris was actually cut out due to infection and inflammation in the eye. And this is another example of eye surgery where they had to cut out part of the iris due to that person who had cancer of the eye. This is an example of a lady who actually had her eye hit with a baseball. And this broke all the muscles that held the pupil in place. So this was her left eye, very normal pupil, and her right eye where the muscles had busted open. When you see this, send the person directly to the ophthalmologist because they need surgery to help put this pupil back into place. This is an example of an eye injury. This was a young man who accidentally had a nail to fly into his eye. And the reason I'm showing this is because when a person is 14 like he was, the lens is still like gelatin and it will ooze out through the hole of the pupil. So when the lens is intact, it looks like this. And after the injury, in a young person, the lens will come forward almost like a gelatin. So if you were to see someone come to you like this, please send them to an ophthalmologist as I did with this young man, and he was able to have his eye repaired and regain his vision. Now this is an example of scar tissue covering the entire iris. And this is the right iris of this young man, and this is the left iris. And he told me that he had an antenna of the car. He fell on the antenna when he was 5 years old, and that created a scar tissue over the iris of the eye. And there's nothing that can be done about it. This was a very old injury, and they decided to leave the eye there with the scar tissue because he could see a little bit out through the sides, which gave him balance. In this case, we have what's called a prosthesis, or an artificial eye. And this is her left iris, which is still a good iris. So if you see a prosthesis, know that there's no way you can analyze that eye because it's only an artificial iris that has been painted by an artist, and it has nothing to do with what's going on with the health of the body. So you would have to only analyze that person's left iris. Here we see the eyes of a 5-year-old girl. She has a very unusual pupil. And that pupil, when we see a pupil like that, is called coloboma. The word coloboma comes from the Greek word koloboma, which means defect. A coloboma is a defect or gap that will usually be in one eye, but it can occur in both the eyes. This pupil is letting in too much light, and so these people usually have to wear sunglasses for protection. And these people have often an irritated central nervous system because they're letting in too much light in one eye and not enough light in the other eye, or less light in the other eye. So that gives me the understanding that her nervous system is irritated. But let us look also at all the contraction furrows in this little 5-year-old girl's eye. So that means that she also, in addition to the coloboma, has additional tendency for anxiety. And this little girl's mother told me that she had ADHD, she had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So when you see the coloboma, you know the nervous system is affected. And you want to also look and see if there's any contraction furrows as well. Now also we want to look and see which way the coloboma is headed. If it's going into the adrenal gland reaction field, such as this one, also would affect the kidney reaction field and the adrenal reaction field. You want to double stress working with the adrenals in her case. So make sure with coloboma that they're wearing sunglasses to protect them from the rays of the sun where they're getting in too much light. And they also should be under the care of a specialist who deals with coloboma. In this case, we see something called xanthelasma. Xanthelasma is fat or fatty tissue around the eyes. And when we see xanthelasma, we would ask questions about the liver. The liver is not processing fats the way it should. So this concludes the Techniques in Iris Analysis video course. I sincerely hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed teaching it. For more information, please visit our website at myinfiniteiris.com.